Welcome to the Dusty Muffins, where menopause meets sisterhood and strength. We're three menopause specialists coming together to laugh, share, and empower you through the wild ride of menopause and perimenopause. Whether you're curious, confused, or just looking for real talk, you're in the right place. We're here to answer your burning questions, educate, and advocate, all with a dash of humour and a lot of heart. So pull up a chair and join the conversation. Before we dive in, please remember, while we're doctors, we're not your doctors. This podcast is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for medical advice. We encourage you to partner with your own medical clinician to address your unique health needs. This is the Dusty Muffins.
Welcome back to the Dusty Muffins, the podcast where we talk all things menopause, midlife, and why we refuse to just deal with it.
That's right. No dusty thinking here. Just real talk, real solutions, and probably a few inappropriate jokes along the way.
And today we're talking about something we all have first-hand experience with, M-factor screenings. We've all done them, we've all heard the questions, and let's be honest, some of them are asked in a whisper like it's a dirty secret.
Spoiler alert, there are no dumb questions when it comes to menopause. So grab your tea, coffee, or your not approved by the Surgeon General glass of wine, and let's dive in.
All right. I love it.
Christina's ad-libbing already.
I know.
No
it's
wine
fantastic.
for you. Surgeon General says no.
She said no.
No wine
fine.
For you.
It's fine.
All
Oh my gosh. So let's get into what is it? Yeah, let's talk about it.
The M-factor
we've all done
screening.
It's fun.
So our menopause
not as many as Aoife, however,
on PBS. That is a they're both the viewpoints of the providers. There's a historical perspective about menopause and how women have been treated, over decades and decades of time. Some patient stories, and then provider education as well. And I think the coolest thing about these M factors is that it's bringing communities of women together, and women are excited to listen to the documentary, to learn. I think that it's eye-opening, especially the piece about oral health and the impact of menopause on dental, because I know so many people in this age group that are getting crowns and the tooth and implants and those sort of things. I think that is usually pretty like aha moment for a lot of women. But just to be in a safe space where we're celebrating women and having some fun, and then being able to ask questions. And I know as soon as the documentary is over, most of us go right into Q&A, and it literally takes less than 30 seconds for that first hand. And once the first question is up, it's game on. So many questions. So anyway, what are some of your experiences from hosting? Aoife,
I was going to say, I only had one, so mine's quick. So far anyways, but it was still fantastic. And I was lucky enough to do it with Christine, and we were in Chicago and in December, and we had friends of ours that hosted it, and we were asked to speak on the panel, and it was just such it's an incredible experience to be up there and listen. First of all, you can hear a pin drop during the screening, right? I mean, silent tears, and just these aha moments, and women, I think, realizing like, oh my gosh, this is me. When they didn't really understand it, or, oh my gosh, I didn't understand that this is what I was going through, or maybe going through. And then to be able to sit up there and just answer their Q&As and to get the conversation rolling, and, listen to their journeys, their struggles, what they've been told, how can we get access. It just, it was such an amazing experience. One of my favorite things I did in 2024 for sure.
Yeah, me too. It's been so interesting to see everyone's response to it. at the ones I've been at, there have been some men as well who've asked some really good questions and been interested in the documentary, and found it a real eye opener as well to know there's this uh, whole phase of a woman's life that they know nothing about.
Right.
And a lot of them would have come with a female partner, and so they've probably been living through it at home as well and not really understanding what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice for them to get a little background on it and explanation as well.
Mm-hmm.
But you get some great questions. I mean, yeah, a lot of the dental questions. And then I've had women say, well, I have a genetic predisposition to forming clots, a clot in the leg, which is called a DVT, or in the lung, which is called a PE. Or I've had one in the past, is our hormones safe for me to take?
Mm-hmm.
So people will ask pretty in-depth questions like that as well, which is, I love, because even within clinicians, even within the medical community, doctors don't know this,
Yep.
And so to be able to spread that information at a screening of a documentary, and there could be a couple of hundred people there or more, is what a great way to get information out,
Mm-hmm. And even some of those taboo questions, finally, those, once you start getting those questions rolling, then you can talk about, sex and libido and, the changes. And because most of these, women, I think sometimes their partners just think they just don't, it's not what they want anymore. They don't really care about it anymore. When in fact, that isn't, they don't like that they don't care, or they don't have a libido. It's not that, they don't care. They may not care about it. They may not feel like they want to be intimate, but they don't like that. They miss that part. And so, typically it's such a taboo thing for women to talk about. And in that space, I feel like we've really opened up that conversation about a woman's desire and intimacy, and, in a safe way, but in a way that, in a group of women where I think it would have been, so taboo before to talk about.
Mm. Do you know what else I really think it brought to the forefront that is never talked about? The experience of women going through menopause in the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's so good for that.
Yes.
Getting people to think about what it's like for a woman going through menopause to go into work every day, and having not slept all night, standing up in front of an office full of people to give a presentation and being so worried that she's not going to be able to remember what she's supposed to talk about, or having a hot flash in front of everybody in the office. I mean, it's enough to make you call out sick that day, right? Or maybe like change your job or leave your job. So I love the way it brought so much attention to that too, because Tamsin Fadal, whose brainchild the M Factor was, that is why she made this movie. Right? She left her career because of her menopausal symptoms. She was a journalist and had a massive on-screen presence on television and walked away from it.
Because the stats are 1 in 5 women will leave their job due to their menopausal symptoms. And
that's right.
On the panel that I was on, I actually had a CEO and founder of a very successful restaurant group in the Northern Virginia area. And he lectures other leaders that menopause is a leadership illness, because menopause is corporate wellness and it impacts every single one of your employees, even if only 50% of them are women, because the other 50% have a mom, a sister, a wife that also is going through menopause. And so it's something that should be talked about in the workplace. And one of the things he said is, wouldn't it be the most amazing, workplace culture if someone could see that someone is struggling and say, I got you, I'm gonna take over, you go take a minute, and nobody think anything of it, and a woman not being upset about that. And so it really now needs to be part of training for all employees.
Yeah, I'm smiling here thinking of a previous job I had not so long ago, but in a primary care clinic. And the medical assistant I worked with, Glory, she was just fantastic. She was always 2 steps ahead of me. But she would see me walking into a room, and I tell you, 30 seconds later, that would be a knock on the door. She'd come in and she'd just hand me the little electric fan. She wouldn't say a word, she would just see that I had been like red from head to toe or whatever. This was before I completely got my hormones sorted out, but and it was just so lovely, and she didn't make a big deal out of it or anything, but she could see I was like roasting hot and sweating half the time. And the office was a normal temperature. Everything else was fine. But I was so miserable and so uncomfortable. And, she had that insight. The two of us did a lot of menopause care together. So she knew all about it. But it was so lovely. Yeah.
Made someone have your back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The biggest question that I've been getting at different presentations now is about cholesterol, because women are going into their primary and, they're asking for labs, and usually, depending on the primary care provider, the only thing they're getting out of them is, cholesterol and hemoglobin A1C. And they're noticing that their cholesterol, the HDL is going down and the LDL is going up. And, that is the number one question. Is that from menopause? And I just got my labs back. And so in the last year, my LDL, and I know last March I was not menopausal because my estrogen was like 220. My LDL was 107, and my labs that I just got back, I'm 170 on my LDL. So in the last year. And so like, I get it, because I'm like, oh my goodness, now it's me. And so I got, I wrangled lipoprotein testing, and now I'm even freaked out now because my LPA is twice normal. So I'm like 155. So I'm at high risk for a cardiovascular event. And so like now I get the urgency why people are a little, is this a menopause symptom? And so because now I got to make a decision about going on a statin, because, I'm going to get my coronary calcium score. But, it's really, really very concerning for women, because heart disease is the number one killer of women. So that's the number one question I've been hearing, is about cholesterol. And now I understand why it's an important question.
Well, you are only telling us about the 170 LDL now, or else we'd both have already put you on a statin.
I know.
100%. Well, I know. I was like, we've not heard about this.
I don't need a coronary artery calcium scan. I'm putting you on a statin.
You're right.
No, I don't want one. Just like everybody else. I don't want a statin.
I know. Well, those are things that we can change later.
Yes, ma'am.
Maybe not with the LPA, but we can always. You're not ever married to everything that you're on.
That is true. That's what I tell the patients.
We'll see what happens. Like, when you're finally done. I saw that with my A1C
story here.
Yes. We're following. We're going to check this out, because we can recheck that in like 4 months.
I plan on it. I'm holding out for a miracle.
Yeah,
genetics, right? You can't outrun genetics.
Christine, you are such a fitness freak. Like you exercise like crazy. You're so focused on keeping your bones strong and your muscles nice and strong. You eat really well, and so you would think when you check your cholesterol that it's going to be fine. So it really is shocking then when you check it and your LDL's 170. It's not fair.
Especially since it's always been normal.
Yeah. And, at menopause, the menopause transition does this, like at a really deep level. Our estrogen affects the ATP, the Krebs cycle. It affects our mitochondria, like right down to the mitochondria. And I never liked biochem. So I start to read into these things, and then I'm like,
I was like, we're geeking out over here.
I know. I'm like thinking, I went to med school for residency for way too long.
Way too long.
Digging back to the Krebs cycle.
So deep.
I was like, are
Our
we going to talk about
hormones
crab or crabs? Wait, I wasn't sure where she was going to go.
But when
for a
you
second
start
with
to
that.
realize like how deep it goes, you
Yeah.
realize that why our liver goes crazy during,
Yeah.
why it affects our teeth,
Fatty
why it
liver
affects
and
our eyes. Yeah, like it really
every
does
time I
affect our.
have, every time I have a hot flash or a night sweat, these are the things I think about. I'm like, oh my God, my brain and my heart and my teeth
Yeah.
and my bones every
bones.
time. And my bones and but my A1C did that. And I'll tell you what, I would have never known had I not used a continuous glucose meter. And I would have never known that because I had gained 20 pounds from this early perimenopause to late perimenopause transition. And I had since been able to get rid of most of that. But I was like trying to figure out what was going on. And my A1C was still normal. No one would have blinked at my A1C. I saw the transition up. My mom has type 2 diabetes, my grandma, my whole family. It happens with age for them and weight gain as well. Right. So here's this 20 pounds. I'm like, what in the hell? I'm a fitness freak. I have, I move all the time. I eat cleaner than I could eat. And there's my A1C creep. And I put a meter on and I would eat like a half a banana or whatever. And it would spike my glucose up over 150 and would take 20 minutes or so to come down, where I'd have to like run up and down my stairs to get it down. And I was just like scared to death that this was my future, was my A1C. And it definitely would have been. And I still have to work really, really hard to keep it controlled. And that is something that this is genetics. Some of this is genetic stuff, and now I just know like I can't eat those things. My husband, he'd eat the same exact thing, flatline, fine. And I can't do the carbs. So I have to do berries if I'm going to do carbs, like my low glycemic fruit, and then protein and healthy fat fiber.
I think the one good thing, right, is that both you and I had the right testing and caught early. And now we know, that we need to adopt some, really focused lifestyle, changes. Not that we don't have them already in our way we're doing it, but it sure does convince me that when I'm traveling, I'm going to still eat on plan and that I won't miss a workout. And, and just, having that information, like, women who don't go see any provider and just have no idea. And they're like, menopause is going good for me, but is your metabolic health okay? Or is your cholesterol
you can't feel
terrible?
that, right? You can't feel like that's some of the things I think we've talked about on even these screenings, like some of these things you can't feel. So when if you're not having hot flashes, night sweats, and painful intimacy or terrible brain fog, and even the mood that they'll, just chalk up to, my parents are getting old, I'm kids at work and all of that. You can't, they call these things silent killers for a reason. You can't see it. You can't feel it. But it's changing. Right. And so that is also the importance of this documentary, is because now we're talking about the things that can happen and what we're seeing, and our cholesterol changing and our A1C changing and the fat redistribution that is very unhealthy and detrimental to our longevity, right? It's our longevity, the way that we live, for how long we live, and at what way that we live in a healthy way. So it's one thing to live till you're 80. It's another thing to live till you're 80 and not be able to get up out of a chair and go to the bathroom or to get yourself dressed. That may be in a little tangent. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all good. Aoife, what are you finding that at the M factors, that, because Aoife is like the queen of M factors, by the by, she's probably seen it 20 times.
I love it.
Are you finding that people are asking like more questions, like about more kind of trying, like, I don't mean advice, because obviously we're not giving medical advice, we're answering general questions, or that women are, now getting their PhDs in menopause. And so now it's a little bit more nuanced in how do I navigate type questions, or are you finding that it's more basic questions?
Yeah, it's definitely a mix. Like I have patients asking, I had breast cancer 10 years ago and I've completed my treatment. I've completed my tamoxifen or my AI. Are hormones safe for me? So sometimes we really get down into the nitty gritty. And then, other questions are, how do I find a clinician who
Yeah.
knows about menopause? Oh, it's all over the place. Just so many different questions. And every time I'm at one, the questions are different, I swear,
Isn't it
So,
crazy? And it
yeah,
probably depends on the community too, right? You
true.
just start to figure out like how educated is this community on women's health and menopause? Like, do they have menopause practitioners? Do they not? How is their GYN community with menopause and midlife care or their practitioners? I would assume that it's got to make a difference too on your questions, that
Sure.
that we get.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the one thing that has been making me really, really sad is that the women who come for the information but come up to you afterwards and it begins with, I know I'm not eligible. And I'm like, do tell. What do you
What do you
mean you're not
mean?
eligible? And more often than not, I will say to them, oh, you are eligible. Like, I have factor V Leiden and I can't be on hormone therapy. I have
MT,
MHFTR.
Jeff.
I always have to think of
Oh
that
yeah,
one.
that one.
I can't be on it. Or I had breast cancer 20 years ago. And it's so the women who are really, really interested are the women who have otherwise been told it's off the table, and they've accepted it. And so when you tell them it's not off the table, like their eyes get so big. And it really is good to be able to connect people, because they would have just been happy with that as an answer, but they're so miserable that they want the information. So I think that in some of these that we're really helping women improve their lives who otherwise were just lost in despair.
You know what? We're
Mm-hmm.
saving women from nursing homes. We're saving women from spending
Oh
the
yes.
last 20 years of their life in a nursing home,
Mm-hmm.
is
Yep.
basically
And
what
yes.
documentary is. Yeah.
And teaching them how to advocate for themselves, right? Teaching them that like I don't have to wait until 65 for bone density. I can get a very inexpensive bone density scan somewhere, for crying out loud. Why are we waiting until 65? It's the most absurd thing ever. Let's just wait until you're already osteoporotic. And, because like we've seen in these young athletes, these women, and, in all honesty, I've thought about my 24-year-old daughter getting a bone density because she was a runner for so long and stopped having periods and things like that. She really should get one, as a thought. But, but we do need to be discussing this even with our younger women too, because all of those things affect, and so our bones are important. But if anything, I think it's teaching or opening the conversation for them to say, I think I need a bone density because I don't want to wait until I'm already have osteoporosis, because 1 out of 2 women will break themselves, right, over the age of 50.
Yeah.
And we can talk about all the bones and all of those for another podcast, but the statistics still blow my mind on that. And I think it opens up the conversation of, okay, where can I find someone? All of these things I was experiencing. Oh boy, I don't have to live with them. It's not just a part of aging, like, getting my bunions fixed and my eyes fixed and, all of the things that can come with aging that we seem to fix, but this is taboo to fix for some reason. Yeah.
And there's information that women don't know. Like, I have a friend who broke her wrist, and no one said to her, well, this is in itself a diagnosis of
You got
osteoporosis.
it. You got
So
it.
no
You
one
should have had a bone
said that.
density.
So she's walking around. She had her wrist fixed, went in and out of the hospital, saw multiple doctors, specialists, and no one has said to her, now this is a sign of osteoporosis and we need to do a bone density scan and we need to get your bones back up and running. Do you know about hormones? No one said anything like that to her. So she's just gone off with a wrist fracture, having had it fixed, thinking everything's fine. and doesn't realize any of that's going on inside or what lies ahead, because if you break a hip, you've got a 1 in 5 chance of not making it through the next year after that. That's a major risk for mortality, breaking your hip.
Yeah. So, 30%, right?
Yeah, we're just
that first year of dying. Not just the fact that 60% of them, I believe, don't go back to pre-fall function, but that I hear anywhere between 20 to 30%. So I usually will say 25%. 25% of women will die within their first year of a hip fracture. I just am like, does anybody understand that statistic? Really?
Things no one ever pointed out during your medical training.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think, were you going to say something, Christine? I'm sorry. Okay. I was going to say, the big things that we wish more women knew, I think we hit quite a few of them, that women still are not educated as much as they should be. They want the education. They just aren't educated because a lot of their practitioners aren't educated. And so, when you're not told what you go through, we know about puberty and pregnancy, but we don't know about, the second half or 40% of the rest of our lives. So that's important. That there's common themes and frustrations with women, meaning that they are still being gaslit. They're still being told that they need to wait. They're still being, this is my own brain fog moment. They're not just being gaslit, but their symptoms are being ignored. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you probably. Yeah, thank you. Where's my cricket? I know it's gonna happen. Yeah, exactly. But their symptoms, are being ignored and put on the back burner. And so we still are hearing these things from these practitioners that, just go drink some wine and then you can, have sex with your partner and it's normal for it to hurt. I mean, just things that are just, I know sound absurd to us, but these women are still being told these things.
Yeah.
What do y'all think? We wish more women knew, or some other, as we kind of wrap up and get some key takeaways here from this M Factor. And you can still, where can women find this? I guess let's give them that too.
On the mfactor.com website, there's still showings all across the country. And then of course you can purchase it on pbs.org for, I believe it's $75. So, be a nice, a nice thing you can do with your friends. It would have been a great Galentine's Day thing for someone to do that for a group of friends. And then of course you can always invite a menopause specialist to come to your personal viewing if you have it in your home, if there is someone that is local to you, and get women together and get that community together. So I think it's eye-opening for sure.
It really is a special event, isn't it? Everyone, every time I watch it, I see something I missed before. And I love hearing all the oohs and ahs, and it doesn't get old. It's really exciting, and to feel that energy in the room of women, just this revelation.
Yeah, and they start to feel empowered right in front of your eyes. It's so neat to watch. I love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think, we know that menopause is different for everyone. Getting answers is important, making sure, that is a step that women can start taking, whether or not they're reading books like Estrogen Matters or Mary Claire Haver's book, finding good social media outlets that can provide you with great education as well, and ways to approach your practitioner, to have questions answered, come with a list. Those are some other good things, good resources, right, and good ways to get your questions answered. Any other advice?
Yeah, I think the nicest way to watch it is to watch it with a group of women. And that's what I was doing here on the phone, trying to see what's the story now, because it used to be free, but they're a very small team and they've been totally overwhelmed with the response to the documentary.
Yeah.
And so there is a small fee involved now, which I think is really appropriate for all the work put into it and what goes on behind the scenes. So I do think, it's 2025 now. Anyone who hasn't seen it, if you're going to watch it, why don't you create a little, get a group of women together, get the women who you go to the gym with together, or, your women on the block, men too, that the guys often have, they love this information too.
Bring your daughters, bring your nieces, bring your spouse, your partner. Like this is not just for just the woman going through it. I mean, this is important for everyone,
Yeah. And if you own a company or you're a boss or a manager,
yes,
you definitely need to know this as well, because the chances are you have people working with you or under you who are going through this. Yeah, and this will give you good insight.
Yep, that's really important. All right, ladies.
That's a wrap on today's episode. If you've ever had a wait, is this normal moment? Let us know. We might just cover it in a future episode.
Make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with a friend or 2 or 3 or 4, because no one should have to figure out menopause alone.
Until next time, stay fabulous, stay informed, and keep those muffins just the right amount of dusty.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.